number, right? A C program to print numbers from 1 to n. So here n is the user given value. That means suppose if I specify the say n number to be a 10, then the program should print the numbers starting from 1 up to n, like 1, 2, 3 up to 10 it should print. Suppose if I provide the n value to be 5, then it should print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I provide a n value to be 100, then it is going to print the numbers from 1 up to 100. Okay, so based upon the input number, it is going to print that particular numbers from starting from 1 up to that given number. So here the specifier I have provided over here, the hash include statement, then the main function. Okay, now let us think of how many variables we require here. Obviously, we require one particular variable to store the value of a n, right? So let us declare that int n over here. Okay, now once we declare the n value, what we need to do is that we need to print a statement on the screen stating to be enter the number. So corresponding to that, let us write a printf statement, printf enter a number. Okay, this number we are going to store it in a variable. So scanf, and since variable is an integer data type, %d, okay, and then variable n, that is ampersand n. So now we have read the number n and stored into a variable. Now comes the part of the printing part. We need to make use of the while loop here. Using the while loop, we are going to print the numbers starting from 1 to n. Okay, now we need to think of a couple of things here. Whenever we are working with the looping statements, 2 points will come. First is something called as initialization of counter. Second is condition for looping. These are the 2 points we need to figure it out and we need to understand. According to that, we need to write the statements. The first one is initialization of the counter, and the second is the condition for the looping. Now let us try to understand what actually we mean by initialization of the counter. Now we know that what we are going to do is that we are going to write some while statement, like while open bracket, then a pair of flower brackets, wherein we are going to write the corresponding while body, and we are going to write the condition over here. Right? So we need to find out this particular condition. That is the point here, what I have mentioned as condition for the looping. So we need to figure out what will be our condition. Before we understand what this condition we are going to write, we need to understand the initialization of the counter. Now, let me give a quick background over here. We need to repeat through these particular statements, which I will be writing in this while loop for few times. It could be 0 time, it could be 1 time, or it could be 100 times. So I am going to repeat the execution of those statements for sure. Okay, then I may come up with a particular condition here. Like in this case, I want to print certain numbers from 1 to n I need to print. So the initial value is what here. When I say in the problem statement, the problem statement says that I need to print the numbers starting from what? 1 up to n. So now here you tell me between this 1 and up to n, what is our initial value which we need to print?
1.
Right? The initial value means the first number which we will print in this program or in this problem is 1. So this 1 acts as now initialization. 1 will act as an initialization. So the counter means we need to keep a track of how many times we have repeated in this particular while loop. We need to keep track of how many times we have done the repetition or looping. That particular, in order to count that one, we need an variable. Usually we call it to be a counter variable. Which means the variable which stores the value of each of the repetitions or each of the loops. Every time, whenever one particular loop is done, it will keep on incrementing by 1. So we need a variable for that one. So let me make use of the variable. Let me declare a variable here. Say counter. Let me say the variable as counter. Now I know that initially I'm going to print the value as 1, right? So I need to make the initialization over here. So initialization will be my counter will be equals to 1. Counter will be equals to 1. That means first time I'm going to repeat through the statements. So I will update the counter value to be 1 here. Okay, that is initialization of the counter. Okay, initialization of the counter means one thing we need to, first point is the variable we need to find out. Okay, then the initial value for that variable we have to decide based upon our program logic or the program statement. So here we have declared a variable by the name counter, and then its initial value we have figured it out to be 1 because we need to print the numbers starting from 1 up to the n. So the first number I'm going to print is what? The n. That is 1 here. So I will update my variable counter as 1. So the first part is done, initialization of the counter. So in the initialization of the counter, first point will be what? Sub point will be declare variable, or say declare counter variable. Second sub point will be what here? Initialize the counter variable. These are the two sub parts of the initialization of the counter. Okay, don't be in the impression that always I need to use the variable name as a counter. It is immaterial. I can use any names provided that it holds good the declaration syntax. Okay, I can use different names also. In the upcoming programs, I will show you what type of a different variable names we can use it. In this program, I'm using the name to be counter. Initialization of the counter I have done as counter equals to 1. Now, is that understood? The first part, is it understood to you or any difficulties? Any doubts? So no response means there are doubts, isn't it? Okay, let us see. Let us proceed further. And when we take up another program, then that time you may come up. You may be able to understand what actually initialization is. Okay. Now, second is the condition. Condition means what? I need to repeat it from 1, starting from 1 up to n. So I need to write the corresponding condition over here. I know that the condition will be an relational operation, right? So I need to print it from what? 1, right? So 1 is where it is stored. It is stored in the variable counter. It is stored in the variable counter. So counter, if it is 1, I need to print. Next time I will increment the counter to 2, then again I will print. Next time again I will increment the counter to 3, then again I will print. Like this, I'm going to repeat it for 10 times. Suppose if it is the n value is 10, I'm going to repeat it for 10 times. If the n value is 50, then I'm going to repeat it for 50 times. So the condition will become here counter less than or equals to n. Counter less than or equals to n. Okay, so the second part, the condition for the looping will be this one in this particular program. So counter is less than or equal to n. So for what I'm going to do in the while loop, I'm going to print the value of what? Is it the counter value I will print or the n value I will print? That is something I need to clearly understand here, right? So now tell me, should I display or should I print counter or should I print n here?
Counter.
Right? We should print counter because we need to print the number starting from 1 to n, right? So print f, okay, percentage d/n double quote complete and then counter. Then counter. So I printed it first time. Okay, assume that here, let us take an example here. Counter is always already 1 and less than or equal to, assume the n value is 5. If the n value is 5, so this condition 1 less than or equal to 5 is what? The condition is true here. Condition is true. That means it will enter inside the while loop. What we need to do? Print the counter. So 1 will be printed now. So first time it will print 1. After printing one, what we need to do? We need to increment the counter so that in the next iteration, that particular number will be displayed. So counter plus plus. We know this plus plus means the incrementation, that is post incrementation here, increment operator. So now counter will be updated to 2 next time when I use this particular variable. So next time means what? We know that the flow of the while loop is that first the condition will be validated. If the condition is true, then it will get inside the while loop body. It will start execution all the statements, and here counter plus plus will be there. So next time when I use the counter value will be taken as a 2. The flow is that after this statement, again it will come back and then check the condition. Again it will come back and check the condition. So this time the counter value is what? It is 2 now. So that is that 2 less than or equal to n? Yes, it is true. True means again go into this particular while loop and keep on printing. Okay, now let us make it simpler and try to do something called as tracing of program. Tracing of program. Tracing of program means we need to understand the flow of execution. Okay, how the statements are executed, in what particular manner they are executing. In order to understand this concept, let me open up an Excel sheet here. Here I'm going to show you how to trace the program. Okay, each one of you pay attention and try to understand the tracing, how we can do it. Okay, there are different methods, but this is one of the best method to understand the tracing of the programs. Okay, so what you need to do, suppose if you want to do it at home, what you can do is that on a paper, on a notebook, one of the page, you need to make a table, right? Table means some columns and some rows. Okay, now we need to first understand the columns here. What are the values I can provide for the columns? Now, in this one, what I will do is that since we have the while loop over here, for this particular while loop, I'm going to have the tracing. Okay, now in the first column, I know that there is an n variable here, right? Say for example, n is equals to 5. Assume n value I am taking it to be a 5 value 5. Then after that, see, look into the program. Line number 10, assume line number 10, I have entered n value as a 5. So here I am updating n equal to 5. Then after that, the next executable statement is line number 17. Line number 17, what do we have? Counter is equals to 1. So counter is equals to 1, I will update. So my counter will be 1 over here. Then after 17, then the line number is 18. In the 18 line number, what do we have? We have an while condition, right? We have an while condition. So here what I will write is that instead of writing the while and completely, I will just write it to be counter less than or equals to n. I will write counter less than or equals to n. So what is this actually? This is a condition of while loop. This is the condition of the while loop. Now we know that when this condition is true, what it has to do? It has to execute two statements. What are those two statements? The first one is print the value, right? So what I need to do here? I need to print the value of counter. I need to print the value of counter. Okay, then after that, the next statement I need to do is that increment the counter, that is counter plus plus, counter plus plus. Now, flow of execution is what? Once the condition here, look at in the cell which I have highlighted. Once the condition is true, execute this statement, then execute this statement, and then again come back and then check the condition, whether the still condition is correct or wrong, right? Then it will keep on going. The iteration will keep on going, or the looping will keep on going until the specified condition is true. Once this particular specified condition becomes false, what it has to do? It has to skip the execution of these two statements. It has to skip execution of the statements and has to come out of the while loop. And here, if you notice, after the while loop, we do not have any other statements to be executed apart from return 0. Okay, now let us try to trace it. Okay, now this is the column values in the table which I have taken. Then in the next place, I will keep on writing the iterations. Okay, here I'm going to write the iterations. Iterations means the number of times I'm going to repeat the execution inside the looping statements. Iteration means the number of times or that particular number instance I'm repeating the statements. Okay, now initially counter value is 1, that I know. Then the condition here, condition how it will be checked. Now counter is what? 1. Then less than or equals to n value. What is the n value? N value is 5 here. So 1 less than or equal to 5. So what will be the result here? 1 less than or equal to 5. Is it true or false? It is true, right? So it is true. Now here I'm trying to trace the values for each of the execution, right? So 1 less than or equal to 5, this condition will become true. If it becomes true means what I need to do? I need to trace these two statements. I need to trace these two statements. So first statement is what? Print counter. So here I need to print the value of the counter. What is the value of the counter? If you look in the same row, the value of counter is what? 1. So I will now print 1. I will print 1 here. Okay, then second statement is what? Increment the counter. So now increment the counter, shall I say that initially it will be 1. So 1 plus plus it is going to do. 1 plus plus it is going to do. So next time whenever I use the counter value will become what? It will become 2. In the next time when I use the counter, the value will become 2. That is, in the next iteration, the value of the counter will become 2 here. The next iteration, value of the counter will become 2. How it has become the 2? Because in the previous instance, we have done counter plus plus, means counter value is 1. Next, we know that it is a post incrementation. Post incrementation means next time the value has to be incremented and then used. So the variable is counter. So here I'm using the counter value. So it will become 2 now. Now, is this followed as of now? Are you able to follow this thing?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now the counter value is 2 now. Now we know the concept that once this is done, again the condition will be validated, right? The condition will be validated. Now what is the condition now? Counter less than or equal to 1, less than or equal to n. Now tell me, what is the value of counters?
2.
How about other? Is that 2 or something else?
No, it's 2 itself.
It is 2, right? So now 2 less than or equals to n. So what is the value of n?
5. 5.
5. So now the condition has changed now. Earlier it was 1 less than or equal to 5, but in the next iteration, understand the words here. In the next iteration, the condition has been changed to 2 less than or equal to 5. Now tell me the result here. 2 less than or equal to 5. Is it true or false?
True.
It is
True, sir.
true. Means what has to be done? I need to repeat the execution of these two statements. So what is the first statement? Print the counter. So what is the value of print counter here?
Print 2.
Print 2.
2.
Now I need to print 2 now. After doing that one, I need to increment the counter. So that will be 2 plus plus.
2 plus.
Next time when I use counter value, I have to make it to be the next value, that is 3. 3, right? Now again we know the workflow is that again I have to come back and check the condition inside the while loop. Now here condition is counter less than or equal to n. Now at this stage, what is the value of counter?
3.
3, sir.
It is 3. Very good. 3 less than or equals to n value.
Yeah.
What is the value of n?
5.
5. So what is the result now?
True.
Result is true. 3 less than or equal to 5, result is true, right? Then
True.
Since the condition is true, I need to do what? I need to execute these two statements. So what is the first statement? I need to print the counter. So in this case, what is the value of counter?
Print 3.
Print
3, sir.
print 3. And then do the incrementation to the counter. That will be 3 plus plus. Counter value is 3, so do the 3 plus plus. So the next time when I use the counter here, tell me what is the value of the counter now?
4, sir.
4, sir.
It is 4. Okay. Then condition. What will be the condition now? What should I write here? Can anyone tell me what should
4
I?
is less than equal to 5.
4 less than or equal to 5.
4 less than or equal to 5.
Less than equal to 5.
Yes. The result is what? It is again
True.
True.
so since condition is true, print the value of counter. So print 4. Now 4.
4.
Then do the increment into the counter. So counter will become 4 plus plus means next time when I use the counter, it will become 5. The counter will become 5. Now the condition will be what? 5 less than or equal to 5. So what is the result here? Is it a true or a false?
True, sir.
True.
True,
Is
sir.
true. Condition is true. Since the condition is true, repeat again the statements. So first I need to print the value of counter. So print 5 and then it 5. So in the next iteration, the counter value will become what?
6.
6.
What about the condition?
It will be false,
6
sir.
less than or equal
False.
to 5.
Less than or equal to 5. And now the condition 6 less than or equal to 5, condition becomes false.
False.
Look at here. When the counter value becomes 6 and the condition 6 less than or equal to 5. So look at here. This condition now turns out to be a false, right? When the counter value is 6. Since the condition is resulting into a false value, what I should do? Should I execute again or should I skip all these statements?
No, sir, execution will be stopped.
Execution will be stopped. That means this statement I will not execute. The next statement, this also I will not execute. I will skip it. Then I will go to the next statements. Next statements, there are no such statements. So the program will get terminated or it will complete the execution. Now look into this particular column, the D column. So D column, we are just stating that we are going to print some numbers. So first time it will just print 1. Let me make it very simple now. It will print 1. Then next time 2. In the third iteration 3. In the fourth iteration 4. In the fifth iteration 5. Like this, the numbers will be printed starting from 1 to 5. Is that 1 to 5? Is that a 5 number which we have entered as the input value to the program? So we have entered the n value to be 5 and program has resulted in printing 1 starting from 1 to the 5. Right? This is theoretically we have understood it here. Right? Let us try to execute the program and check whether it behaves in the same way or not. Okay, let's go to the terminal and compile the program. GCC and the program number is 21 here, 21. Okay, let us look for any errors. No, there are no errors and execute it. So enter a number, say number 5 I will enter and then print, then hit the enter button. Look at here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it has printed only up to 5. Suppose if I execute once again and I enter 10 here, enter a number 10. What will happen? So it will start printing from 1 up to 10. If I enter only say 1, if the enter number is a 1, what it is going to do? It is going to print only 1, right? Suppose if I enter a number to be say -5, it will not print anything because at the initial stage, the condition will become false. So it will not execute the loop, not even once, right? You need to this particular value when I number to be -5. -5 means what will happen? Here, this number is initially 1 and the condition is -5. So is that 1 less than or equal to -5? So condition result becomes false. False means it will skip the execution and will come out. So it will not print anything. Yes, any doubts?
No, sir.
Right. So Nikhil, you said that what will happen if we enter -10? So I think your question is answered here?
Yes, sir. -5 taking you answer, sir.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Understood. See, this is the program what we have written, and you need to pretty much understand the tracing of the program. This is very, very important. You need to know how to trace the program. If you know this particular concept, then any type of the looping statements, if there are in the any program, you will be able to successfully trace and try to understand the flow of execution. Right here, there are different words. Iteration means the execution of these statements. Right, first time we call it to be a first iteration, second time second iteration, nth time n iteration. So iteration means the number of times that particular while loop is iterating. Now, if I say, ask you how many times this particular program will get iterated, or how many times this particular while loop will go into a loop, then you have to look into the conditions, initial value and the final value. Is that NV is something called as the final value? Yes, we can call it to be a final value. So from 1 up to, say, if the n value is 5, from 1 to 5 means 5 times this condition will become true, and 5 times these statements will be printed repeatedly. Okay, understood?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Then let us quickly write one more program here. The program is that C program to print numbers from, let us reverse it, n to 1. N to 1. In the earlier case, it was what? We were printing numbers from starting from 1 up to n. But in the another program, we will do the reverse way. That is, first we will print the n value and then we will go to the first number. In the reverse order, we will print it. Okay. Let us save the program first. This is file. Let me make it as print n to 1. N to 1. Make it as program number 22. Okay. Now, the first statements, that is hash include stdio.h, then int main return 0 and then close bracket. Okay. Now we need a number to store the n value, so int n. Okay. Now for initialization we require an variable, right? So shall I call that variable again in this case to be a counter? Okay. We need to read the nth value, n value. So printf, enter a number, then scanf. So here %d and then ampersand n. Okay, so we have read the initial number. Now we have to come up with two things. First one is the initialization of the counter, and the second one is the condition for the while. So let me write the while statement here like this. So we are going to do the while statement, and here we need to write the initialization. So initialization, what will be the statement? What is the, now tell me,
Counter equal to n.
look into the statement. What is the first value we need to print?
N.
N. We need to print the first value as n. So our counter variable
Is equal to n.
have, yes, very good. We'll have the initial value as n. We'll have the initial value as 1. So that means, suppose if I enter the n value as a 10, first 10 will be printed. After I print 10, which number I should print? Should I print 11 or some other number?
9.
Yes, I need to print 9 now. Means in a reverse
9.
I need to do. So earlier in this case, we were printing the next number, but now we need to print the previous number. In order to print the next number, we did the incrementation to the counter. And if we want to do now the print the previous number, should I use the incrementation again, or should I use the some different operation?
Sir, decrementation.
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 Post decrementation.
Yes, very good. So let me write the condition later. Let me write the print f. So here %d/n, then the counter I will display. Okay, and then I'm going to decrement the counter. So counter minus minus I'm going to do, right? Now tell me what will be the condition here? I will start from n and I have to stop it at what number? I have to stop it at number 1. So in a reverse order, I need to print. So here I need to write the condition here. Raise your
Counter greater or equal to 1.
counter greater than or equals to 1. Counter greater than or equals to 1. I know that this counter value is n now, which is absolutely greater than 1 if I enter it greater to be 1. Suppose if I enter it to be a 10, so the counter is 10. So 10 greater than or equal to 1, yes, condition will become true. Print that one and then decrement. Again, check the condition. If it is true, print it, then decrement. In this way, I will go on repeatedly executing of these statements. First, let me execute the program and then let us trace the program. Okay, let me clear the statements. Let's compile GCC. This is 22, I think. Yes, 22. Then run. Yeah, there are no errors. Execute. Say 10. When I enter the number 10, so what it has done? From starting from 10, 9, 8, 7 up to 1, it has printed. Suppose if I enter the number to be 50, what will happen? Look at here. From 50 up to 1, it has printed. Suppose if I enter only 1 as the number, it will print only 1. If I enter a other number, say minus 10,
-1.
it will not print anything because condition is getting failed at the beginning. Let us try to trace it. Okay, so tracing means I should go to the program one side and on other side the table, right? So let me take off all these things. First is what? Counter is not 1 here, counter is n. Then condition counter greater than or equals to n. Then the next statement print counter, and the next one is counter minus minus. So initial value
Sir,
of
counter greater than or equals to 1, sir.
sorry, yeah, counter greater than or equals to 1. Okay.
1.
Initial value of counter is what? Say for 5. Then 5 greater than or equals to 1. So what is the result? False.
True, sir.
True. Means I need to print what? I need to print the value of counter. So what is the value of counter now?
5.
5. Then decrement the counter. So 5 minus minus you do. Next time when I use the counter, it will be reduced by 1. So what will be the value?
4.
4, sir.
4. The condition is 4 greater than or equals to 1. So what will be the result?
True, sir.
Print the counter, that is 4 will be printed.
4.
4 minus minus 4. Next time when I use the counter, counter value will become 3 now.
3.
Right? 3 greater than or equals to 1. So what is the result? It is again true. Right? Means print the value of counter 3. Then decrement counter 3 minus minus. Now next time when I'm using the counter, they will be 2 now. Then the condition 2 greater than or equals to 1. Greater than or equals to 1. This result will become again 2 here. Okay. Then print the value of counter, that is 2. 2 will be printed. Then again decrement the 2. 2 minus minus. So next time it will become 1.
1.
1 greater than or equal to 1. So what is the result here? Is it true or false?
True, sir.
True. Means print 1. 1 will be printed. Then decrement again the counter. So 1 minus minus. So next time when I use the counter, it will become what? 0. Right? So the condition now 0 greater than or equals to 1. Yes. What is the result now?
False.
False. False means skip the execution of these statements. Don't execute these statements. So by this time, what we have done here? We have printed all the numbers starting from 5 to 1. Right? That's why we were getting, when we execute the program with the n value 5, it has printed 5, 4, 3, 2. Followed? So
Yes,
in
sir.
this concept, you need to understand.
Yes, sir.
First one is whenever we have a program involving the looping statements, first point you need to understand is the initialization of the counter. That means what? We need to first declare a variable for the counter and then initialize that particular counter to initialize that particular counter variable. Okay, this counter variables initial value will be always what? The number or the point at which we need to begin with. In this case, in this program, the initial value is 1. So we initialize the counter to 1. On the other hand, in the other program, the initial value is the n value. So we initialize it to counter equals to n. That is the first part. Then second part is the condition, right? The condition for the looping statements. So this condition we need to figure it out. Always, if you notice here, the condition will involve the counter variable, that is the initial starting point and the ending point. So this we need to figure out what are the variables which will involve in writing the conditions. If these two things are written correctly, then the while loop or any of the looping statements will get executed. If we mess up with writing the conditions, I mean to say that sometime what may happen is that we may write a condition which will remain true all the time. Okay, that time it will go into infinite loop.